Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome on into the Bull Rush. My name is Shmuridorf, and as always, I am joined by Two Wolfman here next to me. We are without Perry again this week, but don't worry. We've got some great content coming up for you guys today. How you doing today, Wolfie?
I'm doing great. Aside from the fact that I can't see chat right now because it just won't freaking load for whatever reason, and it
I
upsets
can
me.
see chat, and no one's talking, so don't worry. No one is talking. We're good.
That's all right. All right, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Little bit better.
We do have a solid sick people in here, so we're good.
8 people by the dashboard, but I can't trust the dashboard, so.
Yeah, I'll never trust the dashboard.
Man. But this week we do have some really awesome topics coming up for you. We are going to be talking about what I said in the Reddit post. We have a lot of data that I was able to glean from the NA Guardians Arena this week. I'm very thankful that all of the Guardians Arena captains were able to work with me in grabbing that.
Definitely.
There's
a lot of stuff here.
a lot of really great data on that, and we're going to be sharing that with you guys later. But first things first, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do, some news coming out this week. Today, to start off with, we do have the first general playtest in several weeks. We're testing out the old map, but new and improved Mistforge. I've gotten a few games in. Wolfie, I know you've gotten a couple games in?
I got one.
One game in, okay.
Because I woke up kind of late, and then I was like, I need a shower, and then I was like, I want to eat because I'm really hungry, and then I ran into you on accident on the game box, and I was like, well, okay, better get ready for Bull Rush.
Right.
So I did like one game, and that's it.
I've gotten a good 6 or 7 games in. I'm really happy with a lot of the things with the Bull Rush, or I mean with Mistforge here. Yeah,
I mean, I'm happy with the Bull Rush too. Yeah, hopefully.
I'm happy with a lot of things they did with Mistforge. Some new map layout sort of stuff. Some new things going on with that. And all in all,
I've heard tons of positive feedback from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really
great
positive feedback with the total thing here. But that is not distracting from the big piece of news today coming along with this patch. But before that, this last week we got some awesome news coming in from Team Apex, which is now Team Renegades. They got picked up by Renegades, the LA organization that has a challenger tier team. I'm not sure if they're going to be poking up into LCS this next year or not. I haven't really been following them. But they do also have a CSGO competitive team as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a weird move at this stage in the game, in my opinion.
I guess maybe, but at the same time, there are other games that do have like competitive team options. Like, they don't have a Smite team. They don't have an Overwatch team. They don't have, there's a lot of other games that
Well, and the Smite team and the Dota team, things are the ones that are confusing, are weird for me. It's like they don't have the 2 bigger ones, but yet they have a gigantic team.
Well, I mean, that just kind of gives it more exposure, which is always a good thing,
Oh, yeah.
More exposure to the game, more people are going to come along and just be like, what is this? Like, what is this situation going on?
I'm not, dissing the fact that this is a very good move for, Gigantic as a whole. It is an incredibly good move for Gigantic, but it just seems weird that, Renegades would decide to pick up a Gigantic team at this early state of the game when competitive is very much in flux, and we in fact actually have hard data now to back that up. Competitive is very much in flux. People are picking random things. Comps aren't really set down yet. New teams popping in all the time.
Yeah, but is that really a bad thing? Because, when people just kind of show up and do things and then just have fun.
Well, it allows people to grow, and it allows, a competitive community to grow, and it allows the community as a whole to grow.
Yeah, and then just kind of give everyone kind of close-knit, more organized together.
Yeah.
Like, people actually become friendly with one another instead of just kind of, like, at each other's throats with threatening rivalry, and then just all this stuff blows up. So I think it's really good.
The move from Renegades, though, overall just seems strange as to why they would want to pick up and dedicate a sponsorship to a team that we haven't even seen any real, promise from in, a competitive circuit. Like, there is no competitive circuit. There's no money going into it right now. There's nothing they're going to gain from this other than word of mouth, and that's the key. Because Renegades also has absolutely nothing to lose in this venture either. Like, what happens? What exactly happens if the worst does happen? Gigantic is a complete flop, and they lose a team. That's it. They lose a team. They lose absolutely nothing else from this venture other than a team, and realistically, that's nothing big to a community like that. So they lose nothing from going into this venture and have everything to gain because they're like, hey, look, we're the first major organization to have a competitive team for this game. And what happens if the opposite happens? Being conservative here, say they go this, we go the Smite route and have a competitive scene that isn't huge but huge enough, say that happens, or even say the other, thing happens, we start contending on the level of CSGO, a massive scene for a competitive circuit, but just not quite the same as League of Legends or Dota are ever, we're never going to get to that. I staunch believe that that's never going to happen, but still a solid, competitive circuit. Say that does happen. Now they've got this huge amount of money coming in for something that they had nothing to lose. And the other end of the spectrum there as well. Think of Apex. What do they have to lose going in the venture? Fucking nothing. Like, they're gaining a sponsorship. Yay, they had no sponsorship before. They didn't have to pay to get in on this. They're not necessarily being told they can or can't do things they weren't already doing anyway. They're not being controlled from what I've seen. So, really, this is, it's an odd move at this stage of the game. That is 100% the case, but it's a positive move. Because
I saw something that was comparative to this, on the Game Theory channel on YouTube. It was something involving, I don't even remember exactly what game it was, but it was some kind of franchise. And the point was that it kind of settled into this marketing thing where whether it's positive or negative, any exposure is good exposure because it gets people to look at the game. Whether or not if it was like Vice City or Grand Theft Auto Vice City or whatever, like San Andreas, any recent game, like anything that's like that, like people would say like, oh, it promotes drug use, it promotes violence and shooting and theft, but like, people still play and enjoy the game because it's something that and it's like at that point it kind of gives them a freedom. Yeah, it kind of gives them a freedom just to do whatever they want to in that kind of game.
And so, in this sort of situation, it's like, oh, hey, look, this is a very strange, like, why in the world this Renegade's picking up this competitive thing? Well, let's go check it out. That's where it's going to be. It's like, okay, now there's more people coming into the circuit, more people coming into the competitive scene as well, because now they're like, oh, wow, Renegades got into this? Maybe TSM might get into this. Maybe, CLG or Cloud9, organizations might want to pick up a gigantic team. Let's get in. Let's get big. Because then what happens?
Even if someone comes up from TSM and is just like they check out the game and play a few games, and then they make a negative response on it.
They're like, man, screw this.
It doesn't matter. Like, people still got to view the game, and people are still going to be like, well, let me just try it and see what goes on. Like, that's the kind of thing that happens.
Like it too much, but 30,000 people still watched it, and everyone's different. So now 30,000 people saw the game.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what it is. It's all just exposure, and that's the big thing to look at this. And I have to give Kit and Blazer, because it's almost certainly Kit and Blazer went to Renegades. There's no way Renegades sent an emissary to Apex and said, hey, look, we want your team. No, Kit and Blazer was like, hey, look, I have a team that I'm managing. Can we get in with Renegades? And I have to give him props for that because, he not only helped his organization out, helped his team out, but also helped the entire community as a whole.
Yep, for sure.
Absolutely. So, good on them, but we're going to get into the meat and potatoes.
I still can't see chat, and I'm really mad.
All that's been said is Geekface saying, hi guys, I'm getting ready for work, but you guys look good today. Thanks. I did literally nothing to my hair today. Fucking nothing. I am not prepared at all for this.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
But today we're going to be talking about tier lists and things with that, and we're going to go ahead and point you guys on over to the gigantic tier list. I'm putting that up in the chat there for you guys. That is the TenTonHammer gigantic tier list. The last time that was updated was October 16th with that patch, so it's not necessarily representative of the whole. It's not necessarily representative of an actual, what's going on now, because we did have the recent patch. But it is a good kind of point. Like, even then,
it is
not
still
too
fairly
much
recent.
Yeah, and there's not too much different balance-wise.
Yeah.
So let's go. We're going to go into that a little bit and kind of talk about our first impressions on this tier list as well, and then we're going to go into all of our data that we gleaned from the GA and how that came about. Talking about the TenTonHammer list, they have 5 tiers. Tier 1 is heroes that are first pick, heroes without question are the backbone of any team due to a combination of abilities and utility. Tier 2 is a second favorite if Tier 1 heroes are not available. These heroes are incredibly strong and slightly above the point of balance. Either they mean that to say that they're stronger than a quote-unquote balanced hero, or are just broken. I don't think it's the second one. I think they just mean it's just stronger than a balanced hero.
I think they just mean they're kind of above average of terms of proper balancing, quote-unquote, as you put it.
Exactly.
With your little hand quotes.
Tier 3 is where they're saying they're considered right in terms of balance, balanced heroes that, they remain strong in the right hands and complement most team compositions. Tier 4 is heroes that are considered good, but ones which require teams to form around them, or they're heroes that rely heavily on personal ability over composition. And Tier 5 is heroes that are considered poor, that have fallen out of the meta, or are seldom picked or seen. So let's go into that a little bit. In Tier 1, first pick heroes, they list Aisling, Sven, and Wu.
Alright. So I just want to point out right now that Aisling is strong.
She is strong, yes.
But anyone in the competitive scene, or anyone that's kind of been around for a while, can kind of tell you that it's not really Aisling as much as it is Khador. And they kind of say that on this list. It says
with bags of utility thanks to Khador.
Bags of utility.
Khador
mercilessly hunts
players
players down. It's deals good damage. But then it says alongside Khador, she's capable of chewing up most heroes. And then right now, Aisling can kind of send them in and do whatever the fuck she wants.
I have literally had games today where I just saw 2 Aislings fighting with Khador. It was like slap fighting only with Khador. I'm not even lying.
That's amazing.
Because they were both they could both see each other. They were both in the area of one point, but they weren't even moving. They were just attacking each other with Khador. That was it.
Yeah, and then kind of just moving back and forth to.
And it wasn't even attacking
attacks.
each other. It was just the ghosts attacking each other. That was it. Both of them were Khador's the important one here. Let's kill that first.
That's great.
Oh man,
that's perfect.
Aisling, I would not put in Tier 1 at all. She not a backbone of a team. Yeah, exactly, like a Pokemon battle. They are not a backbone of a team. They have utility.
Who said that? I want to know who
Cootie.
said that.
That was Cootie. Yep.
That's exactly what it is.
But not necessarily a backbone of any team. Doesn't form a strategy simply by being there. Sort of a deal. Strong, but I don't feel as though that description fits. Sven, however, I would say
he's definitely up there for sure.
He's definitely up there,
but I wouldn't say he's a backbone of a team comp.
No,
right now, from what we've seen with a lot of games, based on what your data is, there doesn't seem to really be a lot of specific heroes that seem to completely
sit on literally every single team comp.
Lock down the backbone of every single team comp. Because I don't really think that there is a hero that does that currently.
I mean, the closest you'll get are people like Tidal or Margrave, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say there's no real hero that sit in that tier with that description, which will go into us building our own tier list later. Because I'm not using that description for that tier. There's just no reason to say that. And now Wu. No. Wu is not a backbone hero. He's strong, but I'd say he falls closer into Tier 4, where it's relying heavily on personal ability rather than on composition. Because he does rely heavily on personal ability to do everything that he does, and even that does also require a team to follow up on what he does. Maybe that speaks a little bit more to the poor wording of a lot of these tiers, but
see, I'll agree with that. But based on the terms of what they've written here on these tiers, Tier 3 says considered right in terms of balance. They remain strong in the right hands and complement most team compositions. I actually would put Wu in that tier.
Yeah,
mostly because he's definitely very strong. We've seen players like Watertoad and Voxel, they are really strong Wu players, and I hate them for it. But Wu brings a lot to the table. He's got a lot of mobility. He's got a lot of damage, burst damage. He's got a lot of what they've put in terms of, like, he actually took these terms from a long gigantic post on their forums. He's a good counter puncher, which means he's very good at kind of like adapting to the situation of what's happening and then kind of turning the tide just on a quick whim. Like, he's very good at that with a good chain of
but really only in a one-on-one fight can he do that.
But he still complements most team comps, because if you are able to jump in and then just kind of distract, like, even if you don't kill them, if you just distract them for a while, like, you're still doing your job. You're still you're complementing your team composition.
Yeah.
I would definitely put Wu in tier 3.
But Backbone, definitely not, yeah.
No, of course.
Tier 2, they've got Charnock in there saying that are incredibly strong, slightly above the point of balance. Charnock, I mean, maybe. He's strong, but I would say, again, falls closer into that tier 3 realm of area where it's strong in the right hands, does complement most team comps, but I think it requires a little bit more team strategy to get that to work. HK, I would say he belongs higher, either in this tier or the tier above. He does very much.
Especially with the recent buffs that he's been giving.
Oh, yeah.
Given, and the fact that he's basically just the go-to shooter right now.
Yeah, like, him and Mozu are the go-to, ranged. Him, Mozu, and Voden, I'd say, are like the go-to shooters for a team, and it's for very good reasons. High mobility, high damage output, good amount of tankiness, and a great amount of utility for his team with the daze and the knock-up and the burning if you upgrade into it.
He's even got his... I did this once when I was playing... I had this... Words are hard. I've seen this... At one point, when I was playing with the EUGA on Thursday, I was playing as Gnosis, and I was trying to distract the enemy HK, and there's an upgrade on his Fortify that allows him to knock back when he fortifies or unfortifies.
Yep.
And so basically it was me charging in, and then he fortified, and then like shot me a few times, and then I came back up. Then he mortared and knocked me away again, and took, like, at that point, like, half my health was gone. Then I charged back up, and then he unfortified and knocked me back again. I'm just like, dude, like, come on.
The counter engage is real if you do it.
It was wow.
Though like, I would argue that in a team setting,
incredible.
I would argue that in a team setting, that's sort of a one-on-one fighting or necessity of doing that sort of stuff and fortifying is less important, because especially with our play last week in the or this last Thursday in the NAGEA, most of the time when I was playing HK, I never fortified. There were times when I did it because it was just there's nobody on me, I was in a good position, let's go ahead and fortify. But in other situations, there was almost no situation where I wanted to stay fortified. And that, again, things we've said many times before, goes into the nature of the map, nature of the meta for the game right now. We had a long discussion about that last week. Mobility is king and moving around is king. So... But again, like you said, that ability to counter-engage is huge on HK. Taito being the next one on the list, I would say definitely belongs tier 2, tier 1. He's, incredibly well picked.
I think Taito is... Like, if there was a tier for tier 1s, like, Taito would be on the top of tier 1. Like, Taito is so strong right now. He is so often picked because he can really do anything that he wants to. It's
the real thing though that you see with that though is because of almost every team comp utilizing at least one assassin, and like we were saying before, Wu is good but doesn't fulfill the large AoE team role, a team assassin role or a large damage role for that. Doesn't follow that, he'll blow his cooldowns and then have to just sit there and do nothing for a little while. Trip is much the same way, blow her cooldowns and have to sit and do nothing, where Taito doesn't necessarily have to do that. He's just the strongest assassin. So, obviously he's going to be in almost every game. He's obviously going to be strong because every game's going to have an assassin. That's almost how that's going to work.
And that's the thing also as well, is that Taito doesn't even... Like, Taito works even more than just an assassin. Like, you can build him as... a really speedy, like, just distraction, or you can build him as, like, an evasive fighter. You can build him, like, almost, I mean, I wouldn't say tanky, but, like, just, like, kind of able to sustain his own, like, to sustain in fights, just even while standing there, just because he can move around so often. And, of course, there's the typical, like, build around just as much burst damage as possible and then one and dunning somebody. Like, Taito is so versatile in almost everything. Like, like all they need to do is give him the ability to heal himself, and then no one else would, like, God forbid, but no one else would ever be picked. No other.
I mean, he's already strong enough on his own. Like,
yeah, no other assassin would ever be picked. It's just like
no other
Taito
hero would ever be picked.
No, five
every
Taitos.
Game. Yeah,
five Taito would be 5 Taitos. Just go.
Next on the list, they have Vadasi, which
is so much lower.
So much lower, and I think a lot of that goes into the patch recently, though. I think a lot of that goes into the patch recently, and I mean, we're not going to be talking about the patch notes this week. If it's still relevant, we might do it next week. But Vadasi got heavily nerfed. She just doesn't feel as strong or as capable, and a little bit it also kind of goes into the map everyone's been playing on nowadays. Canyon is just not as viable because she has to move around and doesn't have a lot of her own utility beyond the heal. That's really all she can do is heal, and you really need a support hero to be doing something more than just healing in this day and age.
If you don't have a support hero that's more than that, you need someone else just entirely to be able to compensate for the fact that you don't have a lot of peeling or like utility like a super jump. So like that's why Sven is so much higher. Yeah,
and again, that's data that we'll get into very shortly. Better. But I would say Vadasi falls closer to that tier 4. Still considered good, but requires a team to form around them. And that is 100% hit and nail on the head with Vadasi. Requires a team to form around that strategy. Voden in tier 2 as well. I'd agree with that. Either that or tier above. His utility is great. His damage is still fantastic. I would agree with where his position is, or maybe one tier up. Zenobia, same thing. Either agree with the position she's in, or one above, because again, ridiculous amount of utility and a good amount of damage to back it up. And you were using her to great effect in the NAGA with us as just a defensive person. Yeah. Which I don't know if that was intentional by Nth's, strategy, but that actually worked
wasn't,
well.
I don't think, honestly. Because we did get one game on Mistforge, and I actually was not with the team very often in that game.
But it worked fine.
It worked fine because I was able to somehow 1v1 a lot of the people that went back there.
Well, and
sometimes
a little of
even
that
2v1.
Goes into the style of play on Mistforge, where realistically most of the time, if you've got Altar and if you you have something good on Forest, most of the time you have one person on Altar at all times and one person on Forest at all times. And we did that. We had like Nth up on Altar and you down on Forest at all times, and had like 3 people rotating between, and it worked. It really did work.
It did work
to great effect. So a little of that goes into that, but you're right. Zenobia has that ability to just defend incredibly well, and doesn't die that easily either.
Yeah, because there were times in the later games, even back on Canyon, where there were just times where I was just all the way back at our 2 back points and just
fighting 4 people,
just defending like by myself, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing up there? Like, push something.
And that's exactly what we were doing.
That's exactly what you guys did.
Moving into tier 3.
That's why we went 4 and 2.
Yep, right. Moving into tier 3, we've got we went 5 and 2. We had one more game after you left that we beat Team Wooden.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good work.
2 subs, even. That was awesome.
Good work.
Next on to tier 3, we've got the Margrave. Is considered right in terms of balance. Please put him up on a higher tier, dear freaking God. He does not deserve that tier 3. He deserves much higher.
And see, it's really funny, specifically with Margrave, because it doesn't feel like he's changed that much.
It doesn't,
Yeah, he's kind of become a flavor of the month kind of situation.
Almost.
Where people
but
are kind
also,
of like exploiting these things that they're doing.
Like, Superior with the Assassin Margrave style. But, that was also the same with, like, Leadface on NA, or on EU, doing a lot of that same style. Assassin Margrave, because he can, and it works. And I think it also fits a lot into the same kind of comp and style of play that is promoted on Canyon. Quick mobility, lots of team fight. Margrave excels in those areas. You wouldn't think it. Margrave mobility, what are you talking about? But then when you look at it, you're like, I see that. Let's see. Ability to jump over the entirety of the Vista Point in like a second. Yeah, okay, he's got mobility.
And
Moving,
the fact that he's just innately tanky as well, like
yeah.
you can build that damage.
And he has a lot of damage
it doesn't
too.
even matter.
If, yeah, just build the damage, and he is anti-squish, 100%, no problem. Mozu in this tier,
I'd put her
say
a little higher.
maybe
tier
in
2.
tier 2 or tier 3 is a good place for her. I think she is balanced. She does have things that make her stronger. But a lot of that goes into if you're. Your team strategy, if you're not focusing down a Mozu in a fight, you're going to get stomped. So she's going to feel like she's a higher tier character. But
that's how we beat Thuggles.
That's how we beat Thuggles. Huggles was playing a Mozu, and we were like, every time Mozu was in a position where we could focus on her, we did. Yeah. So, that's what you got to do. So I would agree, tier 2, tier 3 is a good spot for Mozu. I mean, her focus is still broken as all heck, but...
Debatable, honestly.
Going right along and into Lord Gnosis on this list as well, I'd agree, tier 2, tier 3, maybe,
yeah.
Again, he's balanced, he's strong, in the right hands he's good. Trip, yes and no. I'd say she's either tier 3, it's a good place for her, good in the right hands, complements most team compositions, just isn't as strong as other choices.
Yeah.
100%. Tier 4, they've got Griselma. I agree with that. And Amani, again, I agree with that. Yeah. So, we've been talking about some data this entire time. Some data like, this isn't really picked that much. That wasn't really picked that much. And I know a lot of you are like, okay, can we kind of see this data, please? So, here we go.
You're actually going to show them?
Yep, it's right here and up on the screen. The left chart is every single hero, and I'm going to go ahead and put these into the chat as well. These charts are built off of every single comp that was picked in the GA for North America this week. Your starting one is a summary of every single hero by amount of times picked. That is, there are 59 comps that I grabbed from everyone, so all but one for 30 games is what I was able to grab. And the other one is actually a list of all the team comps by how many times they were played. So starting right out, looking at this lovely data for, heroes that were played, Taito, number 1 on the list. 34 out of 59 games utilized Taito. That's incredible. 57.6%. And again, that goes into what we were saying before. Almost every game's going to utilize an assassin, and Taito is just the strongest in almost every case. He has the ability to burst down an individual hero, has the strength to stick in a fight for longer periods of time, regardless of whether he's used his cooldowns or not, and also has the ability to just get out of almost any situation. Taito is the team assassin. He is the team... oriented assassin. He works with a team setting. And for that reason.
Yeah, you don't even have to look at just Taito, though. There are 4, almost 5 heroes here that are played in 50% or more games.
Yeah.
That is a big deal, considering that there's what, 15 heroes right now? 19?
15 heroes that we can utilize right now.
And it's just that's a lot.
Yeah.
Considering that there's a lot of ability to be kind of flexible with what you're picking.
Yeah, almost 5 heroes, voted in 49.2%. Almost 5 heroes utilized in 50% of the games. And you said, it goes into that fact these heroes are strong. They 100% are, and we talked about this. Taito being incredibly strong as assassin. HK, one of the strongest ranged heroes. Picked 33 times, 55.9%. Margrave picked 54% of the time. Zenobia picked 50% of the time. These are people that we said, they belong on higher tiers because, again, they pop up in every game and have those strengths. Nanaman, I agree with you a little bit. The Charnok counts surprises. It really does. He is a strong hero. But he's only picked 15% of the time in this last week's JA. That is surprising. And to me, that I think that
we've
speaks...
accounted not just for the team. We went. Sorry, something happened on the Twitch page. But it's just the fact that this isn't just data based on what was kind of assumed. This is actually people writing down what their team played.
Oh yeah.
how many times and then gave it back to us, and we just put it all together. Or I should say
Exactly.
Shmoo put it all together, because I didn't do anything. But
Basically, every single captain just kept a straight tally of every comp they played for every game, and I inputted those comps straight into these forms to allow me to get this data. So this
yeah,
isn't, assumptions. This is straight up, flat out, this is what they played.
yep.
And it is surprising, that Charnock isn't higher up there. But again, like we were saying before, kind of goes into, the style of the map. He does have some mobility, it's there, but when it comes to team complementary with people rotating around as quickly, I don't feel as though he complements that kind of quick rotation, style. He really doesn't have, and it really also feels like other heroes do his job better. And we've said this as well with last week. I think it was last week. I know we were talking with Samurai, and he said this. Voden is basically Charnock, but does his job better.
I would agree
got
with
the
that.
dots, got that single target, pokey damage, has AoE damage with the dots as well, has an AoE focus, but also has a heal and a jump pad. Not just a self jump, a jump pad.
Yeah.
To allow his full team to do that. Voden is Charnock, but does his job better, and that is 100% shown by the data. Charnock being only 9 games out of the 59 that I had, and Voden being 29 of them, having 20 more comps that had it.
That's kind of funny. Like, it's 9 and 29. Like
yeah, just 20 more games flat out.
20 more games, just flat 20 games.
And then looking over at the team comps page as well, I counted this out. There are 37 unique comps that were used last week, or in this Thursday's test for GA. 37 unique comps out of 59 comps. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what I also noticed, and you guys don't necessarily have that data, but what I noticed is all these repetitions, like you'll see the Lord Gnosis Taito Trip HK that has 2 games on it, that repetition in the 6 games for Lord Gnosis Margrave, HK Sven, Zenobia, Wolfie, that should sound familiar, because that's ampersand.
Yeah.
Playing the same comp 6 games in a row. All of the repetitions are just the same team playing the same comp more than once. That's all it is. And seeing that really does kind of point out one major fact, and that the competitive scene is very much a growing scene. There is no one comp that multiple teams are picking that is just strong because it is strong. There is no one comp everyone wants to play.
People are picking their comfort picks, and they're kind of working around what they're doing there. And then that's kind of where you get into things where people kind of form into their own little niches.
Exactly.
And then
people
and then they build their
own
kind
strategies.
Of comp. Yeah.
They build their own strategies. Like the comp that I'm highlighting right now, the ampersand comp, that was Nth wanted to try out a strategy. That is exactly what it was. So that's how that works. Like, people are picking a strategy. Okay, let's build a comp based on that strategy, and now we're going to go ahead and do an entire GA on just that strategy. The other team comp, Gnosis, Taito, Voden, Zenobia, Mozu, that had 6 games, was Team What, choosing the exact same comp for 6 of their 7 games.
Just with a different kind of, with a different idea of what they wanted to do.
Now, one thing I do see, however, and we talked about this as well, is every single one of these comps is very similar. And that goes into that data that we had before, the big disconnect in there. Lord Gnosis with 24 games going down to Ageling with 14, a 10-game cliff between what is picked the most and what is picked the least. That in and of itself showcases the fact that there is a meta style that is forming. There is a style of comps that are being picked competitively more times than not. And that's really interesting to see, that even though an individual comp, one specific comp is not stronger, a style certainly is. And that, again, speaks more to a meta style showing up, people playing into comfort picks that are comfortable across the board.
Yeah.
Which very much suggests a meta style forming. And
I think what I've seen recently is that based on the data that you've kind of put together, I feel like a lot of the common comps are like pick comps, siege comps, and defensive comps. It's like a lot of these guys that are picked very often
I would
are
add one more comp actually into that, and that
okay.
is the push comp as
Okay,
well.
yeah. And it's just like a lot of these guys can fill in these roles. Like they're very flexible based on what the ideas people have. Like Taito, pick comp, push comp. Like he's very good at both of those things.
Yeah.
Margrave, defense comp, siege comp.
Push
Like
comp, pick comp, he does it all.
his Margrave is amazing. HK, defensive comp, siege comp, push comp.
And pick, yeah,
Yeah,
every single one of them. Same with Zenobia, same with Vodin, Mozu.
yeah,
They all complement those four main styles of play. And there are heroes that will do it better, but they're, again, like we said before, require highly on personal ability and team comps to coordinate better. So there's almost a barrier for entry there. Like you need to have a team that is comfortable with playing with each other and playing on that comp before they'd even want to try doing something like that in a GA
yeah.
or in a competitive setting. Like picking a Griselma comp, the quote-unquote NA counter I made up, doing that comp, you'd have to practice that. That is something you'd have to have under your fingers to really be able to do as a comp. And, while other, team comps might do a siege comp better than some of these picks that we're seeing, that doesn't mean these picks can't do them incredibly well and will inherently do them better because they're just better heroes, easier heroes, more comfortable heroes to play on. And I think that's the most telling thing about this, when it comes to game design, is that there are certain heroes that just feel better and easier to play. And Taito, HK, Margrave, Zenobia are the epitome of that. Zenobia is very straightforward. CC, straight up. Margrave, very straightforward. Put yourself in the middle of the enemy team. HK, do damage. It's very straightforward. They're very comfortable heroes to play, and that's, I think, the most telling thing of all of this data.
Yeah, and then that kind of actually that's actually complemented based on what's at the bottom of the list right now. Like from Ashling down, like a lot of those characters actually do have a lot higher skill cap.
Oh yeah,
like they.
Ashling is a very high skill cap hero.
Ashling,
use incredibly well in a team
Vadasi, Wu, Trip. Like even Griselma.
Well, and that's my favorite thing as well. There are so many newer players who will just rag on Trip and hate on Trip, saying, "Oh my God, I'm not playing this game because Trip is broken." But hello, 10 games, 17% of the games had Trip. Are you kidding me?
10 games out of almost 60, and Trip only showed up 10 times.
17%
and it's not
of the time. It's nothing.
Like the NAGA has like what 15 teams at least playing consistently throughout the night. Like that says something.
And I mean, I didn't grab the team lists from every team. There were a couple of teams like a Ringers Rebellion team, because it's just Ringers. Like they're just going to play what they want to play rather than try and form a strategy. But yeah, like you said, these are they're teams. That definitely, do use those same things. And Trip just does not, fit well into a team setting, I think is the big thing. We've said it before, Trip does not do well against good players and a coordinated team. Now we have hard data to back it up. Trip is just not solid in that team setting. And yet we've seen time and time again, even in this recent patch, nerfs against Trip. Because she just does well in a pub stomp setting, and she will always do well from pub stomp settings. And Nanaman has it there as well. Trip players say she often dies from collateral damage in team fights, not necessarily from being focused on. And that is a huge thing. Like, if people focus on Trip like they do in GAs, she's useless. Utterly useless. Imani picked equally amount of times, and that also says another thing. Like Imani, a hero that requires a team comp to play around them. He requires, a team comp to work with them, and it's picked equally as much as Trip. That's a big thing. Now,
and it kind of also it tailors also to the fact of the map, like you said before. Like Vadasi, like she got kind of nerfed, but not like hugely, where it seemed to the point where she just kind of just. Like she was up here, and then it was just like just she got buried underground. Like it wasn't that bad, but it still got hit enough to the point where people just stopped putting her in favor. And then there's these other things where, you know, Vadasi is an exceptional healer. Like, she is hands down the best healer in the game, but she doesn't bring utility to the table. Yeah. Like,
she's got
Uncle Sven.
Yeah.
So much more peel, so much more damage. Zenobia,
he's got the
so
peel,
much more,
you know,
like so much more peeling, so much more crowd control.
There's that
like,
one as
those
well.
two supports
Sven has the
are
jump
just
pad as well.
Yeah,
and Vadasi does not have the jump pad. He has, with that jump pad, the ability to get deflection for heroes that are inside of it when it's down, so that way they don't get hit by, you know, like say you're pushing in on a creature, you can place that down. The enemy team has a Mozu. Good luck doing anything, Mozu.
Yeah.
You know, at all. And it's just Sven doing his job. Vadasi does not have that. She has one utility: healing.
Yeah. And then she has like a cleanse if she gets it.
And it's not even on other people. Like, she has the one on her smite that's for other people, but it's the most awkward thing to use.
Yeah. And then on top of the utility, like, Sven just has more raw damage. Like with the burning upgrades and the armor shred on the acid flask, like he can easily stand on his own. Like, Sven is, I think if personally you're good Sven is a little strong right now.
Yeah, if you're good on Sven, he will very easily stand on his own. You just have to be able to hit the flasks, and not easier said than done.
Yeah,
but
granted,
yeah, you know, he can still hold his own pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, here's the real reason why we're here, is we want to build a tier list based on this. We want to have something that we can kind of put out to people and say, this is really where the game is at right now. This is what we want, you know, this is what we're seeing, and we have data to back it up. So I would say...
But yeah, it's based on our personal experiences, and it's based on raw data that we've gathered together.
Exactly.
So it's more accurate, honestly.
Now, so here's the question. I wouldn't say that we need 5 tiers at all, you know, because even they have, you know, TenTonHammer has it said, you know, consider poor these heroes have fallen out of the meta or seldom picked or seen. No gigantic heroes are considered for tier 5 for them. There's no reason to have it. But for tier 1, I would hesitate to go ahead and say that there is anybody that are just backbones of a team or are broken inherently or anything like that. I'd say that tier 1 are people that are highly picked or considered easy to play.
Yeah.
You know,
highly picked, easy to play, and just like overall strong.
Yeah, overall strong and fulfill a lot of roles. You know, and with that being said, I would say those top 4 heroes, Taito, HK, Margrave, and Zenobia, will dominate that setting. You know, Taito, HK, Margrave, and Zenobia are the flat out, in my opinion, best heroes of the game right now in a competitive or in a team-oriented setting. Because Taito is the team-oriented assassin, HK is the team-oriented range, Margrave is the team-oriented tank, Zenobia is the team-oriented support.
Like control support, yeah.
You know, so with that being said, that's my tier 1, flat out. Stronger than most everyone in terms of balance, and fit almost every single team comp you can think of. And I hope you're taking notes, Wolfie, because you're the one who has to write these. Who has to write this article?
I should do that. Yeah. Let me open something. Let me gather things.
You know,
let me move this over here.
So, you know, with that being said, and people are saying in the chat as well, Taito's the hardest hero to learn. They don't really get Taito. I understand that. You know, there are some things about him that are difficult to understand or difficult to learn in a solo setting or without many games under your belt as well, or without seeing another Taito do what Taito does.
But here's the thing, though. There are a lot of people that play Taito.
Yeah.
You can ask someone. You can ask Falco. You can ask Avalon.
Quick.
You can ask Quick. You can ask like anyone that's just kind of around pretty often.
You know,
like they will tell you how they play Taito, and then you can kind of like you can kind of take that and then kind of move around based on what you like, what they've said, and then just kind of find something that works for you. Like Taito's kind of got a pretty good. Like, I honestly would agree that Taito does have a pretty decent skill cap, like kind of mid-level skill cap. but you can definitely get better on him, like for sure. I think it's very easy to get better on Taito.
Oh
Like
yeah,
don't think that you can't. Like definitely never
it's
think
definitely
that.
there. But definitely, I would say that those top four heroes there are the ones that belong in that top tier, and tier one being, heroes that are incredibly strong, heroes that are, they fit into almost every single team comp available, flat out. Now, from there, tier two, I would say, are heroes that would complement any team comp that that bring a lot to the table, in their own rights, but aren't necessarily the strongest picks for their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely say, Vodin works into that. Mozu definitely works into that. Sven and Gnosis all work into that. And those four heroes by this data definitely would work there. But I'm not going to discount Wu from that list yet, because even though he's not picked, we had this said from Samurai before, whether it was on stream or not, Wu is just difficult to play when it comes to that. He's a higher barrier to entry than most other assassins, and there aren't too many people who have, in the competitive scene, who have 100% really practiced Wu.
Yeah.
And so I would say that Wu definitely fits up in tier 2 if more people would play him. He's not the strongest at his job, but he's certainly strong enough to complement almost any style of comp.
Yeah.
So I put,
you said Sven too, right?
Yeah, Sven. It's
okay.
Vodin, Mozu, Sven, Gnosis, and Wu would definitely fit into tier 2.
Okay.
With that sort of a list. Wu needs a Battletoad skin. Yes, man. Battletoad's Wu, man.
For sure.
Yeah, African Reco. Especially if there's another Taito on the other team, I would definitely see Wu being able to out-duel a Taito and lock him down and kill him, as a way to counter Taito. And even, like we said before, that the little nerf to Trip made her even harder to play. I'd agree with that as well. Mm-hmm. Tier 3, I would say, are heroes that, while good in their own right, don't necessarily fit into every team comp and are so difficult to utilize in a team or setting that they are seldom picked. And that being the case, Aisling fits in there. Really strong, great at her job, but hard to fit into every team comp. Trip would fit in there as well. Not the best choice at her job. It's good, but very difficult to orient in a team setting. Same with Amani, same with Charnock. Those are the people I would say, Aisling, Trip, Amani, and Charnock are those people that would fit very clearly into that tier.
Mm-hmm.
And Griselm and Vidasi fit into that tier 4, just like with TenTonHammer, saying, okay, look, they really require a team comp to work with them. 100%. Require a team comp to work with them and are not the best at their job in any right. There are people who do their job better. There are choices that are just better for that position. And even in a team comp that specifically works with Vidasi, I would still say that Sven just does her job better. The only time I would say Vidasi and Griselma should be picked on any team is if you're doing the Beam team. That's it.
Beam team, dream team, boys.
Exactly.
That's the Beam team.
That's why I would say that, they would fit into that tier 4. Good, but require a team comp to work with them.
Yep. And that's everyone.
And that's the tier list right there. That is straight up it. And, I would say tier 1 and tier 2 are just so close. They're so close when it comes to just where they have to, where they are, that it's almost splitting hairs in saying, that these person are tier 1 and these person are tier 2. And the only reason I'm separating them is based on numbers. These are the top 4 played heroes, and they have roughly the same kind of role setups as if you look at it. Margrave, Zenobia, HK, Taito versus Vodin, Mozu, Sven, Gnosis. Gnosis is just, a less than viable assassin tank than Margrave or Taito is. Still really strong and fits into a lot of team comps and works incredibly well, but you could do the same thing with Taito, just more specialized. Mozu and Vodin are both just ranged heroes that do their jobs incredibly well, but not as well as HK can do those jobs. Vodin and Sven, I would say, I may almost put Vodin up in tier 1, personally speaking, simply because, again, he fulfills both the support and a damagey role, so he has more roles that he can fit into. But Sven versus Zenobia, if I had the choice between those two, I'd still pick Zenobia every day of the week. Sven's really good, but Zenobia is just worth it more. So, but even then, when it comes right down to it, all 8 of those heroes could belong in tier 1 for their own reasons. Because they are
9.
just 9 heroes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Those 9 heroes... No, it's 8. It's 8.
No, it's 9, because you have Taito, Zenobia, HK, Margrave tier 1, and then Vodin, Mozu, Wu, Gnosis, Sven.
Wu. Thank you. Forgot about Wu. Wu is the only one who I'd say would embody, no, he doesn't belong in tier 1.
Yeah. Wu's kind of like the bottom of tier 2.
Yeah, it's like the bottom end of tier 2. But, I really feel like he's there because we haven't unlocked his potential.
Yeah.
Is the big deal.
We've seen people do extremely well with Wu. So, that's kind of where the personal kind of preference comes in, the personal experience.
Exactly.
It's not just numbers. This is stuff that we've seen.
Now,
we've seen really good Ashlings, we've seen really good Trips, we've seen really good Charnox, but
they don't fulfill the jobs that other heroes will do anywhere near as well. Trip does not fulfill Taito's job anywhere near as well as Taito can. Charnock does not fulfill his job anywhere as well as Vodin can.
I think I missed something. Because for some reason I have Amani in both tier 3 and tier 4.
Yeah, and Evan, right there, a good Wu is a terror. A good Wu with a team to back him is unstoppable. And we saw that. We had a game where that happened. We had our first game in GA against what was Clash Point. It was a mixture of people from Clash Point and Clash Path. And Warpath. It was a mixture of those people. Quick was playing Wu, and if you know Quick, he's one of the best assassins in the game.
Yep.
And he absolutely wrecked our team because of it.
Did you put Griselma tier 3?
I was it tier 3 or tier 4?
Well, you said Amani was tier 4. I don't think you said Griselma at all.
Griselma and Vidasi are tier 4. Imani, I would say, in tier 3.
Okay. So Imani tier 3.
Read out to me what we got.
Alright, so in tier 1, I have Taito, Zenobia, HK206, and Margrave.
Yep.
Those who are extremely good at their role, etc., etc., etc. Tier 2, I have Vodin, Mozu, Gnosis, Sven, and Wu. Those who are exceptionally good at their job, but aren't exactly picked more often than the others.
That's really it. Tier 3?
Tier 3 is Ashling, Trip, Imani, and Charnock. Those who can do extremely well are good at what they do, but they require a little more team organization, and there are better picks.
Yeah, people that just fulfill their roles a little bit better. And then that last tier?
Tier 4 is Griselma and Vidasi.
Those who
are kind of out of favor. And
really, it's just people that are flat out require a team comp to work with them to be useful.
Yeah.
And in almost every case, do not fulfill their job anywhere near as well, by orders of magnitude anywhere near as well as other choices. And I would say that is the Bull Rush Guardians Arena certified tier list. That tier list is actually going to be going up as a part of an article on Go Gigantic Unleashed, so if you wanted to refer back to that at any point, looking forward to that sometime this week. And we'll also have links to this data in that article as well for people who want to just come back and look at it as well. Because, again, I'm not going to just hold on to this. Why am I going to hold on to that? Anyone should look at this. Everyone should look at this.
Oh, I might put it up later today. It won't be
Knowing
that
you,
hard.
entirely possible.
It won't be that hard. I've already got most of the work done.
Yep. But we've got a few minutes left. We are coming up on the end of Bull Rush. Really quick feeling Bull Rush this week. We're going to go really quick into those last couple of deals. I'm going to get rid of this data here since it is no longer relevant for us. Last couple of little housekeeping things. With the patch this week, with Mistforge this week, we had somebody ask before we had our data discussion. The new Mistforge looks small. That was sloppy stop sat nothing. He said, new Mistforge looks smaller. The water teleport thing, what's your impressions of the map changes? What's the impressions of the new map? And honestly, you know, a lot of this was said, you know, on Thursday with a lot of the Guardians Arena people, because we did just kind of get, there was one game, everyone was thrown into it on accident, you know, and a lot of people, you know, I've talked to Team Apex today, or Renegades today, I've talked to Team What today, you know, everyone loves the new map. Everyone just flat out loves that new map.
Yeah, a lot of people that, it's hard to say though, because a lot of people that love it, like, have played it before, so they're kind of like really excited about the fact that it's back.
It's back,
and that it's new and different and like really cool. Because now, like it's not it's on top of the fact that it's different and kind of changed a little, like kind of terraformed, and some things were added. But now you've got to account for like the new stuff that the creatures do. That was something that I wanted to discuss for this Bull Rush, but you know, like it's like where do these walls? Like, when you summon a Cyclops at a point, like, where do these walls show up? Like, what paths do they block and why? And, like, what can our players do to kind of, you know, move around and accommodate themselves for those things? You know, there's just a lot to think about because it's a completely brand new map with a completely brand new style that's very open and so different to a lot of newer players who haven't had a chance to just explore it.
Absolutely.
Like when I started playing this game a year ago,
that was
the first time I opened up Mistforge, I was like, what the hell do I do? Like there was so much in front of me. There was this huge scaling map and I was just like, what do I do?
Yep.
And then these other players, like some of them knew what to do because other players had been playing for a while before me. But like you kind of have to learn like what's going on here. It's a new map. You got to explore things. You got to figure out what works and what doesn't. And then that you know, if Guardians Arena next week includes Mistforge as part of the rotation, like we might, like even if we do take data all over again, we might see a whole bunch of different stuff.
Oh yeah, a whole new range of things being done and things happening. So
for the most part, I absolutely love Mistforge, and I hope that everyone else does too, because it's an excellent map, and it could. It's good. It's good.
The one thing I noticed, and again, this is a little bit of an insider opinion, because we played one really well done, really well coordinated game on Mistforge against Rematch, and of course they weren't, you know, coordinated as well because they were thrown into it without knowing. We had a little bit of an inkling it might happen that game. But we had the ability to kind of form a strategy really quick, and that strategy felt good. You know, rotating between different points, and if they had gone on and decided to push to one point, we had one person going back and backcapping their points. Like that kind of counter, like, oh, you want to come and attack us at our forest? Okay, we've got Nth going and taking your bell now, so deal with that. You know, that feels really nice. Like there are so many really cool, you know, strategic and rotationally based things right now. There are so many different rotations you can even do. Like, hey, look, we're attacking them at their entry, or we have entry now, so let's go ahead and rotate in and attack forest. Or if we wanted to, let's rotate up to altar and attack there. Or hey, look, we have altar, we can attack forest, but instead we're going to push all the way straight back to your fountain or to your statue and fight there instead and force you to fight on us.
Yeah,
you know,
like
and choose to go up through secret instead and put a jump pad down and go through the secret, you know, pathway there. Let's go this direction and that direction. Let's rotate to this place. Oh, hey, look, now the Guardians are going into a completely new arena.
Yeah.
which is so different from what teams have had to deal with before.
Yeah, where the Guardians just kind of move closer, and then now they're just like, wait, there's a whole part of the map that is now open?
And we have
it's
to
like,
rotate over to
what?
that, get in there so we can focus there as a team, and the entire feel of the game changes there as well. Like, with Clash on Canyon, the feel of the game still stays consistent, but with Mistforge and Clash, the entire feel of the game changes. It becomes a more of a Canyon-style thing, which... honestly, I like that. The quick rotations to a lot of different points, people fighting at different places. We have one person going back here, one person going over there. I love that because it does exactly what Clash was originally intended to do, which is hype up the end of the game. Give it to this wonderful climaxation point, and that's exactly what it does. It climaxes the game, and it's beautiful. It really is. Mistforge is a great map, but the one major downfall I'm seeing is it's very, very difficult in a solo queue setting, because without any amount of with the current communication we have in the game, even with the new ping wheel, it is next to impossible to convey any of these actual rotations or any of these actual strategies out to anybody. It's just an absolute
without
monster.
without vocal
communication. It's impossible. It flat out is.
It's very difficult.
Even if you had a chat, it would be impossible, I would say. And that's the major downfall of it. So we see a lot of just really bad play coming out from everybody, not just newer players. Better players just conform to like, oh yeah, I can just do whatever I want now because there's no strategy involved now because nobody can do strategy.
Yeah.
And that's the major fault in Mistforge. But
then, then people end up by themselves, like at, what is it? It's not entry, right? Because entry is the bridge. What's the other one? What is Clash called now? Altar. So like people go up to Altar by themselves and not even realize that their team's like all the way back at their forest, and then they just get jumped because they're just like, well, I'm gonna go take this because I freaking can.
And a lot of people also don't know that when they walk up to Altar, if the enemy team has that Cyclops there, the big wall cuts off your main entrance, but there's a second entrance right off to the right. You just have to jump up to it.
Yeah.
So many people
have to explore. Like that's the thing.
So many people don't see all those explorations, don't see all those different paths, and really need to get to know the map before we can start seeing a lot of higher level play. And I think a little of that is just because, again, this is the first time anybody's played on it in forever.
Yeah.
Not even like, oh, we haven't been able to play for this past 5 weeks. No, months of time that the general beta test has never been able to play this map.
On Mistforge at all.
So, a lot of people have to learn it. A lot of people have to explore it. But when that happens, I think we'll see a little bit better play. I think we'll see a little bit more coordinated play with people, even without a voice comm.
Because
people will start playing a little bit smarter.
There's going to be a huge explosion of improvement. At least I personally think so.
Oh, yeah. But that's going to have to...
me.
Oh,
last note from me. MOK did an amazing job on this reforging of the map. It looks incredible.
Yeah.
Applause to
Absolutely.
you. MOK, rocket girl.
Because there were, from our experience playing on the map for a long time ago, there were a lot of problems inherent to Mistforge, and that's why it went away. And now that it's back, I mean, the changes are perfect. There are so many things that are better. There are still things that need a little bit of tweaking, but overall, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely.
But that is going to actually call it for us today. We are 1 hour and 7 minutes. That's 2 minutes over our hour of actual talking time. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on out and checking out everything. If you haven't already, please feel free to follow the Go Gigantic Unleashed Twitter for up-to-date tweets on when this is going to be brought to you live. Every week, that's when we say, hey, we're up in 10 minutes. Hey, we're up in this hour, Go ahead and look for us up on the Reddit as well for quick looks into what exactly we're going to be talking about this upcoming week. I try and get them out on Fridays, but this week I did it this morning because still had to nail down everything. If you want to, go ahead and follow us down here at Schmooglydorf and at ToWolfman. When we could finally stream this game again, I will be streaming this game at my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Schmooglydorf. Wolfie will probably be doing the same thing when he can as well at twitch.tv /ToWolfman. But thank you guys so much for coming in and watching. Check out the VOD over at YouTube, and we will see you next time.